Thank you very much, Ariana. And I trust you enjoyed the little break. And now we're ready to dive into some discussion on the agenda subjects. And my discussion will be one that would have emanated from a number of hours dedicated to developing a framework to tackle gender-based violence, and also coming out of, let me see, I think we are gone too far ahead. So yeah, I just want to make sure that we're all in so we can get started. Yes, so today's presentation is based on the Spotlight Initiative and Guyana's experience and development of a comprehensive model that encapsulates all the areas necessary for a targeted response to gender-based violence. I'd like to recognize the partnership that started in 2020 between the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security and our partners. Our partners included specifically the UN and the EU. One, the implementing partner, and the second, the financing partner. And although, and I say this with great humility, we started some 8 months after everyone else in the region, we were able to come up with a comprehensive model and to develop a model that touches on every aspect of gender-based violence. And the picture that you're seeing there is not so much about me, but it's what I hold. And I hope that collectively we can take this pledge before the conference ends. It's called the I Can Pledge, and it's asking for the voices of everyone as we speak out and advocate against gender-based violence. So as the program got started, we signed on the Spotlight Initiative, and the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security spearheaded that initiative. And that initiative led to the development of 6 pillars, which involve public-private partnership, civil society, strengthening of systems within the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security, and working on everything from data to policy, and developing imaginative, creative programs to tackle the elements of gender-based violence, including developing strategic directions on education, information, and awareness. And we started off with looking at what obtains in Guyana. And the thing that happens here, which I'm sure many of my Caribbean counterparts and the distinguished representatives can attest to, there is always some difficulty with reporting violence, whether it is from fear and trepidation of the individual because of insecurity, financial insecurity, lack of familiarity with what is out there, or uncertainty that exists for themselves or their family, or maybe distrust and lack of confidence in the system. We looked at innovative ways to encourage reporting. And from this point thereafter, developed a very interesting referral pathway, which involved partnership with stakeholders and a multi-sectoral approach to gender-based violence. This was not something that we were able to do by ourselves as a ministry. So as the ideas unfolded, we had helpful and very excellent technical support from United Nations Population Fund, from UNICEF, from UNDP, literally from all our UN partners. And with that, we were able to not only think about what we wanted to do, but we are now able to give you stats from when we started to where we are now. The most important development very early in this pathway started with the 914 hotline, which is a toll-free hotline. We got competing phone companies to partner with us on this one model, and so we were able to give anyone who was experiencing any form of violence the opportunity to make a toll-free call. It's 24 hours. We have a dedicated number of staff that would have been assigned to this. Following that, we looked at how can we harness information communication technology to ensure that we are able to offer reporting even in the most tenuous and difficult of circumstances, and the iMatter app was born. The iMatter app is not something that when you look at it, you can see what it's for. It's relatively unobtrusive. So even if there's a perpetrator in the vicinity, one may not be able to discern what it is being used for. The iMatter app has a panic button, and we'll be adding features like WhatsApp chat features and other interactive features to have a very easy and seamless engagement with persons who make reports. Then came the biggest, I wouldn't want to use the word challenge, but then came the biggest task. And we took it on frontally, and that is working with developing confidence in the response by the custodians of the law or police force. And came the initiative, the Cop Squad initiative. Now I thought about it and I said, let's think of a name that sounds really good. And so the Cop Squad Initiative 2000 was born. And I'm pleased to tell you, as of last week, we surpassed our target, and now 2,006 of our police officers have been trained to respond to gender-based violence from every region in Guyana on how they must engage, how they must take reports, how they must write reports, and how they must maintain a professional demeanor. This included officers from every level of the Guyana police force. Coming out of this, they were pinned, so they're easily identified in our police stations. The stations have been and are continuing to be equipped with domestic violence units for reporting. And also, we have the final stage, which will be the feedback engagement form from the public, rating their engagement with the police officers who've been trained. And then after, action can be taken. It's our accountable model, if I put it in simple that way. Oh, I think it's stuck. Oh, right. So I shared on the iMatter app as well, the Cop Squad initiative. And this is perhaps something that I want to spend just about 2 minutes of your time on, and that's the Hope and Justice Center. This is a significant collaboration between the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security and the Ministry of Legal Affairs. It is funded by the IDB Impact Justice Program, and how it will function or be operationalized is done through the Spotlight Initiative. With a one-stop model, pretty much the bright orange color is significant, as we well know, when we speak about gender-based violence. So it is going to be an iconic look that will be replicated across the country. And these Hope and Justice Centers will be one-stop models where someone can come and have access to every single service that they require, whether it's reporting to the police officer, taking away the fear or the anxiety going to the police station, the legal services, the counseling services, the healthcare services, all under one roof. And if we can do so, I can give you a sneak peek, even though it's still under construction, but we are hoping to open it this year, the first one in Region 4. Then we thought about how can we help women when they're fleeing from a situation, and we came up with a number of intervention tools, notably the Survivor's Kit. And this is a kit where every female who comes to us making a report, they're equipped with a kit that can tide them over for 2 months or at least a month, depending if they have children or more family dependents. In addition to that, when someone comes to the Ministry of Human Services, a very innovative program called the Survivors Advocate program was crafted. And we have some of the survivors advocates in the room. These are very brave people, because any person experiencing violence has someone assigned to them from the time of reporting to the conclusion of their issue. We also will have safe vouchers, and these are vouchers that could be redeemed at any supermarket. And this is a public-private partnership where the partners come from the private sector and they provide the safe vouchers for us to help to tackle gender-based violence. In addition to that, we are expanding our shelter services, and there are always persons who do not want to be in a shelter. So to counter that, we also offer 3 months of rent to anyone who comes to us with an issue of gender-based violence, so they have somewhere safe to go. The intention is to keep them safe. And I hear you. Technology seems to be failing me, but nevertheless. Right. Then came, how can we involve the public? And the CAN initiative was born. We did the first pledge at the Parliament buildings, not in the Parliament, but at the Parliament buildings. It was a symbolic act because we brought together literally people from everywhere, from the diplomatic community, from the cabinet, from the local government, regional systems, people from civil society, public, everyone came. They took the first pledge, and now we have trained over 1,200 people as community advocates, as part of the Community Advocate Network. We're going to be rolling out a program where there are eyes and ears on the ground. They're part of our reporting network, and they're part of education, information, and advocacy in communities. And we continue to do that. This is a voluntary system. And this system is open to not only individuals, but companies, people who have groups, basically anyone who's interested in our mission. Maybe, Rebecca, you can just move the slides. I mean, I'll give up. Okay, so that was the ICANN pledge, and next slide, please. Now, the comprehensive referral pathway meant that we have to have discussions with everyone. The spotlight structure provides for us to have a committee co-chaired by myself and the UN resident coordinator, which involves all the stakeholders, including CSOs, and we have that discussion on what we think is required for the Spotlight Initiative, the country at large, and what are the plans and the recommendations to move and drive government's policy as it relates to gender-based violence. I have been helped significantly because His Excellency gave such an expansive presentation on what we're doing for empowerment and gender equality. So I'm making sure that I keep my presentation relatively small, but to tell you that the referral pathway is perhaps the most critical thing that one ought to have in one's arsenal against gender-based violence, because every person needs to understand clearly their role, their responsibility to ensure at every step someone who comes in to make a report on violence, they have the ability to access equally every service across the country. The good thing about Guyana is that all these services are absolutely free. And so it makes it easier. We also have to have the partnership with the CSOs in a lot of these areas, so it is not only governmental agencies, but non-governmental agencies that make up our referral pathway. Now, the success of Spotlight in Guyana lies in our government's commitment to take national ownership. The President spoke about us not having project type only initiatives where it fizzles out at the end of funding or at the end of a program. And so Guyana will be able to integrate all of the programs that would have been started under the Spotlight initiative under the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security, which simply means there will be budgetary allotments to everything that was started under Spotlight. And I think that is significant because it means that we have continuity of everything started on this program. Now, next slide. Now, empowerment revolves around what we can significantly do to ensure that women who would ordinarily not have access to many of our programs, not because they are not accessible, but because of the perception that they need to have something extra, that if they don't have it, it might preclude them from entering the program. So we started the Women's Innovation Investment Network, and that program is a program that is offered free of cost to any women without any prerequisite for admission. So literally, from your 18-year-old or your 17-year-old to someone who is in their 60s can tap into this program. It is done in a hybrid model, and it involves an accredited certification. We've partnered with the University of West Indies. We've partnered with the UK ABMA. We're partnering with Coursera to offer stackable courses, which brings world-class university education to women who would not usually have access to this kind of programming. In addition to the model whereby the program is disseminated, we further thought, well, we're training women, and from the onset in 2020 with the cottage industry program to the formalization of the WIN program, we have trained over 12,000 women to date. And this is women in every region in our country. So we thought, not only training these women, what next? So we started the WIN in Business clinics. These clinics gave women the fundamentals on business literacy, entrepreneurship, and from there, we started our female business incubator, focused intensively on women. And I must say, at this point, lest the men in the room think we are ignoring them, we do have men in our classrooms, and we do open the doors to men as well. The percentages might be small, but we welcome the men in there because we are looking at gender equality in its fullest colors. So the Women's Innovation Investment Network evolved into the Women in Business Clinics, the Women's Business Incubator, and thereafter we looked at how can we have partnerships to provide funding for women who wanted to start business. The President shared with you for all the sectors what is happening on a macro level. I'll just focus on WIN to tell you that we started something called an empowerment fund. We partnered with the World Food Program, and we were able to provide for these women cash stimulus grants. And we were able to do that for over 5,000 women, those we trained and those we didn't train, and this included women in all of the regions of Guyana. We also partnered with stakeholders, including the National Insurance Scheme, Guyana Revenue Authority, the banks, and everyone who could have added value to this discussion and this program. And we were able to have registration happen on site of businesses, and I'm pleased to tell you of the 5,000 women in the first 2 years, 45% of them have gone into entrepreneurship, 25% of them are employed, and on our WIN app, which is again harnessing technologies, we have over 850 women-owned businesses advertised for free through the Ministry of Human Services on the app, and we're working to make that app a point of sale, like a little Amazon, especially for women out there. And you can see the growth in the region. In 2 weeks, we had about 11,000 applicants from across the country. That just tells you the volume of interest that happens across Guyana. And when we looked at the WIN app, we saw growth, and women started to catch on very quickly. They could not only have their products and their businesses advertised by putting something up, they could also utilize advertising techniques to promote their sales, promote whatever it is they wanted to do. And here we were, bringing women together from the hinterland to the coastland, all on one platform. Next slide. And this is a little snapshot of the business incubator. We'll be taking you on a tour of this so you can see this in reality. Next slide. And us going out at the business clinics. Next slide. World Food Program and the cash grant. Next slide. And this one. We're doing all of this training. What if someone invests in all of this, but they're still mired in a very explosive, volatile situation of violence at home? The Legal Pro Bono initiative was crafted. This added on to Guyana's legal support landscape, where we have legal aid, which is given a subvention by government, but added on to that was the Legal Pro Bono initiative, where we tapped into the Guyana Bar Association, and some of the foremost legal minds are providing free legal support to women who experience domestic violence, $500 a year. So this is perhaps the newest baby in the whole pot, but it's growing significantly, and we do have someone assigned directly to the ministry. You'll hear from her later on how that works. Next slide, please. And this just shows you the growth in terms of women knowing what we offer and making use of it. Next slide, please. And this is where the story goes, and this is where we see ourselves not being only spotlight, started in 2020, but really owning it in every conceivable facet. So next slide, please. I just want to say thank you for listening to me. I tried to put it together as concisely as possible, but there's so much more to this. So thank you very much, and I want to thank all the incredible staff members who work in all of these areas to make this a reality, and to the team that would go out and be part of the outreaches as well as the in-house services. And thank you to all of you. I hope you find something useful, and we will be sharing with you for your perusal in some detail the Guyana model of the Spotlight Initiative. Again, I'd like to thank our partners, the UN, the EU, and our CSO partners as well. Thank you very much.